It's up here, only want to be down, I want to get down to about here, but it can't go to 0. Okay, gotta have a little tension there.
And so I'll email this to you guys too. So basically the OSCE, so here, what is an OSCE? So in medical school, and they usually use OSCEs for step 2s in medical school, or for medical students, they do in stations. And with our facility, we're not set up with big rooms enough to do stations. So yours is gonna be a combined OSCE, so, which means that you'll do a history, a physical, and also a discussion or consultation with your patient. So usually they'll be done in stations in different exam rooms and things like that, but we don't have that here, so we're gonna do it this way. So basically, like Dr. Britton had said earlier, this is where we want to know what, not what you know, but what you can do. And it's using the application of the information that you already have in your brain, that we all know that's there, but just applying it to everyday practice. So it's basically the hardest thing that you're gonna do or learn to do is practicing medicine. And this is just an evaluative way for us to see where you are at this point. So basically, like I said, you'll be evaluated by us and observed by us. So in each room, there'll be a faculty member. And like he said, they will change and your SPs will change. But that's how that is. So there's that one. And so when we talked about focused history, I know during SPBLs it kind of got a little muddled. So for these purposes, a focused history will be information that you obtained from your SP for this current medical condition only. So including, you have to do the chief complaint, chief concern, primary motion like we always have. And then you also need to get a history of present illness, the past medical history, surgical history, medications, allergies, family history, social history, sexual history relevant to the case. So remember how we used to do for a full SPBL, you have to do 3 generations of da-da-da. No, not for this one. It'd be all focused. So having said that, when we were in our SPBLs, it was always endocrinology. So you knew you had to ask the endocrinology review systems or history, things like that. This one you won't know what you're going to have. So in your mind, you're going to have to start pulling from things depending on what their complaint is, start developing differentials. So with that, you'll have to start developing what review systems you need to ask out of, what physical examinations you'll need to be doing. And so that's why we're saying pulling a focused history. And then, okay, so then also we're going to assess your communication skills, like we've done the whole communication skills scale that we've used all year long. We'll be doing that again for this one, but it will also be done by the SP and your faculty member. And that will be averaged out for your communication skills grade. And we'll talk a little bit more, and Dr. Britton, I think, may have already...
In the syllabus, I've got a lot of details
Yeah.
on grade, so we'll go over how it all breaks down and how we do it. So you'll see how your grade comes out.
Anything else you want to add for the focus history?
No, just the importance of pulling those pertinent, trying to draw the pertinent information out of the patient, you know. It's really hard, I know, and I haven't been here through the whole year, but we're talking about just having to go in and do a complete history and physical is overwhelming. So for this, you just need to draw on the one, it's gonna be easier than a Good Shepherd patient.
Yes.
Because they're gonna be there for one complaint that needs to be addressed.
Yes.
You know, and so you'll be able to pull from that complaint the other information that you need to help make your decision at the end of the encounter.
And your differentials.
Right,
So.
right.
And then a focused physical examination. So it may be one body system, maybe multiples, depending upon what your differential is. So like for instance, so you're not going to do a head to toe like we normally have been doing, or from head to heart. It again will be focused upon what complaint they have. For example, you know, complete cardiovascular examination will include examination of the legs for peripheral. So if it's a cardiac complaint, you would know not only do you have to listen to heart and the lungs, but you also check the, you know, swelling in their feet, their pulses, those kinds of things. So you'll hit multiple body systems on a cardiology complaint. And so that's what you also need to be aware of. And then you'll have to explain what you're doing. So like we talked about, when you go to do something on your patient, make sure you tell them, okay, I'm going to listen to your heart now, or I'm going to need to lie down so I can listen to your belly. And then also make sure you're always be aware of their privacy. We'll have drapes in the room, so if you need your patient to unbutton their pant, make sure you drape them, you know, cover them up when you drape them. And try not to do anything, if it hurts them, don't do it repeatedly where they're like crying in pain. just don't harm this.
First, you know harm.
First do no harm. And then if we're, the faculty member will be in there, so if you kind of can, try to remember where we are, or if we need to move, or if you'll move yourself so we can see what you're doing. Because a lot of times, you guys will get caught up in doing your exam, and then the SP is sitting behind you, or the grader's behind you, and we can't see what you're doing. So then at that point, without interrupting you too much, we'd have to move or shift, or we rely on the SPs to grade, and so that becomes an issue. So just be cognizant of where you're standing in front of the patient so everyone can see what you're doing, to make sure you get the full credit of what you're doing, and that we make note of how you're doing it, or if there's anything that needs to be corrected or anything like that, okay? Discussion. So you will be expected, and you like the little, do you
He
notice?
said that's definitely an Ohio State fan,
Looking,
because that elephant is making him very nervous.
yeah.
He had a good reason to be nervous too.
That's right. So the difference in this is you're going to be explaining to your patient what you think they have, or what you're thinking that they may have. So in your mind, as you're doing your history, you do your physical exam, at the end of the visit, what you'll do is you'll say, okay, this is Joy. I think this is what, you may be having. There could be this, could be that, but this is the most likely that it is. So these are things that I want to do for you, or I want to order for you, or I want to give to you. So that is going to be part of your
Yeah, and including any just very basic
Science, yes.
science behind it. Like, I think you have X, Y, or Z because.
of this, or explain them a little bit, like you're talking about someone who has AFib. You don't go into medical jargon about what AFib is, but you just tell them, your heart is beating a little bit differently. It beats irregularly, so normal beating sounds or bump, bump, but yours kind of goes out a little whack. So those kind of basic science things for your patient, to educate your patient basically on what the disease that they have and what you want to do for them and what you think you're going to be treating them with.
Yeah, we don't expect you to have a complete plan before you leave the room, but just something already in your mind that you're thinking that
Right.
you
That
could
you
show
do.
that you can explain to the patient in a way the patient can understand it.
Right, because that's how you would do it in real practice,
Right.
and then you'd go out, and then you'll do your note. Okay, there you go. So, like he said earlier, you'll have 2 OSCEs. They'll be back to back. You'll have the morning session, the afternoon session. And you'll have a total of 35 minutes to complete each OSCE. Generally, we've banked out a time of 20 minutes for your interview and your physical exam, and then explaining and discussion with your patient. Then you have 15 minutes, you'll walk out of the room, and you'll sit at the little cubbies or a little table, whichever we have set up for you, to do your note. So you will turn in a note at that time and email it to your faculty member. And we'll have a template for you all to use. I'll be emailing that to you, and that's the template that you'll be using for both of your notes. Okay? Okay, and that's basically in the first 20 minutes, you determine the chief complaint, chief concern, focus history, focus exam, and explain your clinical impression.
And we did include there that if you want a pelvic exam or a rectal exam as part of your workup, it needs to be ordered as part of the workup on your
Yeah.
note. We're
So
not gonna
no,
be doing
yeah,
that.
no pelvic, no rectals, don't put them as. So if you want it, then you
order it.
yeah, just order it, yeah. Don't do it. Okay. And then in the remaining 15 minutes, you'll document your note. And then when we talked about, you'll have to have at least 3 differentials. That should be, yeah, at least 3 differential diagnoses. But listing them from the primary, what you think is you most suspect, to the least. So, and then with each one of your differential diagnoses, we want you to support it with any history, physical exam findings, things that why you suspect that this may be it. Does that make sense?
As far as the play goes, are we allowed to look things up for medications, things like that? We just have to know it?
Yeah.
Including doses and things like that?
But as I said, if you don't get it, if you put amoxicillin 250 or, a number that's not right,
And you're not gonna be
you're not gonna
graded.
get dinged for it.
I mean,
But at least you get the antibiotic,
Right.
kind of maybe recall what you can on
I
it.
think focusing the the
So more
assessment
focused
more
on the
on,
process.
Yeah, it's more the process of it, that you're able to go in, take a history, do a physical,
the flow, the
Yeah.
comfort level.
right, and come up with the differentials, you know? Because right, in practice, you may not know how to treat
I
everything,
look
you have
up
to look at
dosages
stuff.
all the time, you know, so it's more just that you think, that you're thinking in the right manner.
Right.
And that you have established that there's evidence in the exam or history to support
Right.
that you want to give that
Right.
application.
Why you think it is and what it is, and that's really what we're looking at this, that you're able to,
We
come up
weren't
with that.
looking at that clinical reasoning.
right, right. It's more clinical reasoning than the actual finite details of the medication. So, I
you
mean,
don't stress out about
Yeah.
like memorizing a bunch of
You
drugs.
might put down patient needs to be on proton pump inhibitors, or you might put
Right,
down this
you can- and you can do that.
hypertension needs treating with an ACE inhibitor, and you could say probably blah. You know,
Right.
But that's the right direction.
right, that we know that you're thinking of, that's the way it's gonna be done. Whether or not you know the specifics, that's not what we're gonna grade you on.
Is our discussion graded in the room or based on our note? Like if we walk out and decide, oh, actually, now that I'm like looking at everything when we're typing up our note and we decide that maybe we think it is X over Y and we put that in our plan or whatever, is it, you know, because they would contradict each other, I guess is what I'm saying, based off of what you heard me say in the room, by when I turn my note in to you, if I change my mind.
I think it'll be fine, because I mean, in your
Right.
room, on the spot, you're probably getting a little nervous, thinking, okay, I'm just gonna have to spit something out.
Right, and that's
Okay.
more on your ability to communicate that,
Right.
that intelligently to the patient.
Right. And if
Versus
you,
whether you got the right answer to the patient, does that
Right.
make sense?
Yeah, okay.
So, and then if you decide, oh shoot, I didn't think about this, this is probably, as long as you got on your differential and you got reason to support it, I'm happy with that.
And you know, and there's 3 grading components, which we'll get to into
Yeah.
the syllabus, but there's the communication grade, there's the in the room grade where you check off, did you ask this, did you ask that, can you communicate? That's a grade, and then the note is a separate grade, so if this worked in the room, fine. If your note had a little bit different, I don't think we'll be comparing all that stuff, it's just going, in
It's
this
mainly-
moment,
right.
is this okay? In
because
this
developing
moment,
the
is this okay?
HPI and doing the focus physical exam is our main purpose out of this, because there are certain questions that you all need to get from the SP to come up with your answers for either your diagnosis or your differential diagnoses. And so yes, those are in there, that we sit there, she and I sat there and thought, okay, what do they need? These are the can't miss questions as far as this certain complaint. Does that make sense? So that will be in your HPI section that we checked off. But as far as, do we say, okay, did they make sure that they put them on ACE? No, we don't do that. So it's just a matter of, can you come up with the differentials that we think, you know, are
That you need to be
appropriate?
thinking about.
Right.
And
that
there's
you
not,
need to be
there's
thinking
not
about.
gonna be crazy.
There's not crazy
like-
trickery ones, you know, things like that we've done. It's pretty
It's
straightforward.
things you're going to see
Right.
immediately when you get into your clinical year, so.
And your debrief, the debrief session the next day will be with the faculty member, and they will have taken notes, and they will give you any recommendations or things that you did well, which you all have done very well throughout this whole thing. So it may be just a matter of, you might want to ask this question, or on your differentials, they may ask you, okay, so where did you come up with this, or why did you come up with this, or here's another one that could be, you know, things like that. It's just more for your benefit, the debrief is, to help you kind of start thinking and, you know, a way of thinking and doing before you guys go on rotations.
You have all this knowledge, now you have to package
Apply
it
it.
all up and tap into it when you need it, and
Right.
that's hard.
And that's hard, and like I said, this is gonna be the hardest thing that you'll do, is because it's practicing medicine. I mean, here we are 10, 15 years out, and it's still hard for us sometimes, we still have to look up stuff. So don't expect to be 100% on this, however, we expect you all to be 70% or above, you have to pass.
And really just learning to build that
Right.
differential. And because practitioners can get in big trouble, because I've done it too, by you see something 100 times and you know before you walk in the room, it's gonna be this. And then you walk in the room, and you take a very good history and you're completely thrown off. Oh, wow, that
Mhm.
wasn't what I thought it was
Yeah.
gonna be. So just that process of still building a differential in your brain, even though you are 99.9% sure what this patient has.
Right, and that's fine, and that will be your number one differential diagnosis, and the other two that it possibly could be will be there as well. But majority of the time, you will know what it is when you come out of these rooms. We haven't made it such that it wouldn't be difficult. And then, so this is a list. So this is a list that we created that will be common presenting complaints in a patient from in a normal patient care setting. So your OSCEs will come from this list. You don't know
Yes,
which
you
one
can
it
thank
is.
us now.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You don't know which one it is, but these are in there. They're there. So just be aware. So what I would do, you got 2 weeks. You can go through there, look at what complaints they may have, what kind of questions you could think about to ask them, and how would you work it up? How would you treat them? And then any other differentials, like so abdominal pain. What kind of differentials in your mind can you think of 3, depending upon the location, right? So those are the kinds of things you gotta make sure you ask them. Where is your abdominal pain? You know, those kinds of things. And when you start thinking in your mind the differential of the you know, diagnosis, then you'll have to remember to ask them questions that would lead you to that diagnosis.
This is a lot of what's fun about this job, is being just a little bit of an investigator as you go
Mhm.
in and drawing out this information, so this part's fun.
So this is you all won't have the same ones. You may have the same ones, you may not, but they're all in there. So,
I will tell you this, just to be a completely hard person. AM and PM people, if you want to do phone calls back and forth or text about what you heard, I can absolutely guarantee you it will be a waste of time. This is going to be operating in the moment in your block and trying to help somebody down the road, which we all know has happened, is not going to do you good. And it really doesn't serve the purpose of the activity. This is self-assessment. Take this one straight up as your self-assessment. You don't need help from friends. It won't help you. And I guarantee the way it's scheduled and set up, there's no way.
You're not gonna know your weaknesses if you're drawing
Yeah.
from somebody who had theirs in the morning.
right.
So,
And you know, we have, just to add this interesting part, we know that the PM people always do better than AM people.
Yeah.
And why is that? I mean, it's just notable when you run SPBL. Okay, and I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but there's enough little stuff in the atmosphere that goes around, and by the end of the day, people are pretty comfortable.
Yeah.
We know human nature, that's why I was jumping on you about HIPAA. Stop it, you have to kind of get this out of your head, talking about stuff with people. It will get you one day.
Yeah, because at the end of it all, you know, when I know you guys talk about grades and all that, and I'm sure we did in school too, but in the end of it all, you guys are all gonna graduate the same degree. You guys will go out and practice, and you may call upon each other, and you'll need each other. So, you know, don't talk about each other, don't say anything bad about one another. You will need each other when you graduate.
and your patient
Yeah.
that you're
Your
taking
patient don't
care
care.
of, who's writhing in pain on that hospital bed, they do not care.
If you got to the top of
If
the
you've
class
got
or
a
the bottom of the class.
90%, they don't. They care about how you treat them. They care that you're empathetic. They care that you do have knowledge, of course, but
And above all, you listen to them. You know, that you ask them the
the
questions.
listening
Yeah.
skill is just
Just
as
it.
important as whether you got an A or a C.
And your patients will tell you, you didn't hear a word I said, did you? Or was that my husband? He gets on to me all the time. But, questions? Yes?
Can we take our computer into the room with us?
No, I don't think so. You just have to write it on a note, like you would in a Good Shepherd, on a piece of paper. Because your note will be just your SOAP. So your subjective should include your history of present illness, any pertinent review systems, pertinent past medical history, pertinent social, pertinent family. It should be all up in there in your HPI. And then your objective will be your focused physical exam, and then your assessment and plan.
Your assessment will include those differentials.
Right, I'm sorry, yeah, it'll be your 3 differential diagnoses, and then the stuff that's supported.
And again, the plan's not as important. We're
Right.
just wanting to see that you're working through the process of it.
Yes.
So is it a handwritten note?
No, it's a typed up note.
Okay.
So you
And then we
will,
can just
So just
email
put
it
a
over.
computer on the table
Yes.
outside.
yes. So you can write it up while you're in there, you know, as you're talking to your patient, how you would write it up. Then you basically just type it out and come out of the room, start coming up with your differentials. Other questions?
I can go ahead and finish up orientation. We'll get to the last little pieces. We're mostly there.
Okay.
Let me just recall attention to one thing here. on the D2L course site, you have your schedule, the schedule for OSCE, so you can see when you're going to be on. Student instructions are in here, very much what you've just been told, that it gives you the timelines, you know what's expected in the timeline, so you can see that piece there. Documentation, grading guidelines, this is on here just to show you this. The documentation, 3 points for presenting problems, 1 for chief complaint, 1 for chief concern, 1 for primary motion. 6 points for documentation, complete HPI 3, other pertinent medical history 3, the objective physical exam 4 points. It's not into all that little checklist of things. Yes, it will be subjective, it'll be in the moment, but you'll have a practicing license PA saying you're about there. It'd be hard to get a 1 out of 4 if you do most of the stuff. If you mess up on something, it still can't be 2 out of 4. You know, it's just hard to not do well on this if you follow your process. Then your plan, your differential 3 points, you know, 1 point for each differential is 0.5, for each diagnosis 0.5 for the justification, then 2 points for the documentation. So that's 20 points on that, just to show it to you. Also in here, the presenting complaints, and then also the communication skills. Y'all have seen this before, you know, this evaluation. Faculty member will do 1, SP will do 1. And you know how various those things can be sometimes. SPs are harder on communication, I think, than faculty are, just as a general rule. Okay, now, IHI Open School, I have put together a guide for this, and this is something you're going to have to do. Yes?
I don't think we mentioned that you're going to take their best grade.
I'm going to get to that. Just going to let it go. Okay, and then on the, let me get the Open School. This handout goes over what you need to do. Here's how you enroll. It's a website, Institute for Healthcare Improvement, IHI Open School. There's a log-on page. I'm not going to click into all these, just wanted to show you. You can use your OKCU EDU email address when you identify yourself, and whatever as your username or whatever password you want to do. There will be a place to indicate that you're a student, so be sure you indicate you're a PA student at Oklahoma City University. And the courses are free. They're free online for students, residents, and faculty members. I'm going to take this with you all. I haven't done it. I know the topics, but I'm going to be taking it this week too, so I will be even with you in terms of what it looks like, and if anything weird goes on, we can talk about it. Once you've got yourself logged in, do Education tab, and then go down to the Open School, and then you can get to online courses. For first-time visitors, it's easy. This is very self-explanatory. You're going to be doing the 13 courses required to earn the IHI Basic Certificate in Quality and Safety. Here's the details. I'll get down a little bit further here. Okay, once you complete all the courses, you'll be able to print out certificates indicating successful completion of courses. You must print off and submit your certificate to me by 9 a.m. on Thursday, December 14th. That's the day we do our in-class activity, so I want you to be done with it and have the certificates to give to me that morning, and then we'll go into our groups.
So we're doing the basic access, not the complete access?
Yeah, when you go to, it's basic access,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
And that will give you access to the online courses.
Okay.
There's, when you start messing around, there's all kinds of stuff on
Yeah,
there.
there were
but
just
this
2
is
different
good.
types, so I wasn't, okay.
Yeah, I did basic, and if it doesn't, just go back and select the other one, but I'm pretty sure you'll be able to get into it. Then, your basic certificate is the 13 fundamental courses. There are several categories of modules. On the online courses, the ones you take are all the ones that have a little asterisk listed by them, and once you go, you'll see this when you're online. We're doing Quality Improvement 101 through 105, so those topics are to be covered. Patient Safety, there's 5 modules in that, and then there's one topic in Leadership, 1 in Person and Family-Centered Care, and 1 in the triple aim for populations. The little parentheses afterwards, each one suggests the amount of time it takes to do that. I don't know that it takes that amount of time to do those courses. I've looked at some. I think I'm faster than what they say, but this is just their average suggested time to get it done. So you can see that they're not just nothings. I mean, hour and 30, hour and 15. So what I would suggest you do is look at your week, and where this whole first week and most of next week you have some half days in there, figure out how many to get done in each day and go ahead and do those, because you have to turn those things in. You got plenty of time, you can have all weekend. If you just want to do all weekend, you can do that too. But you have time in this week, and so just use this week so you don't have to end up stressing yourself out doing stuff at the end. Because when you come to the in-class activity, you will kind of have to be familiar with some stuff to be able to function in here. So that's all the topics, and then after that, there are each course lists its learning objectives out, so you can see these will be the learning objectives for the test as well. There's an online assessment you have to complete. You can actually go back and forth. If you don't get enough to get credit for that class, you can always go back and look at stuff and come back and answer again. You'll have to do that to get your certificate, but we will be using these objectives to write the questions for the test. I'm probably looking at doing 2 per topic. So if you've got Quality Improvement 101, I'll probably ask 2 questions out of this. I'm not thinking about doing my 4 hours per topic. Well, I mean 4 questions per topic like I usually do. Okay? I'll talk to you more about it as I get into it and see what it looks like. But this just lists out the objectives. So that's what that piece is. So that's yours to manage yourself, to be ready to go. Then, let me get the syllabus open and we'll look at this and then we'll be done. I'm going to make just a few more little changes based on some of the things we talked about, but cast of thousands, just look at the course description. PA 5383 Capstone Final Course of Didactic Phase provides opportunities to demonstrate competence with the knowledge and skills learned in the didactic phase, as well as begins the process of transitioning to the clinical phase like I told you. Students must demonstrate competence in assessing patient complaints, performing physical exams, determining plans of action, and documenting patient encounters. That's what we've been doing all year. Content, skills, SPBLs, that's what we're bringing you to so you can begin practicing this repetitively in different practice settings. In preparation to be an interprofessional team member skip one. Students are also introduced to many procedural skills expected of PAs in clinical practice. That's all the little things we've listed. In preparation to be an interprofessional team member in a variety of healthcare settings, students complete an online curriculum of the Institute for Healthcare Improvement to receive the basic certificate of healthcare improvement and patient safety. The IHI curriculum develops students' understandings of interprofessional practice, patient-centered care, the current healthcare system, and methods to identify and reduce medical errors as well as improve the quality of healthcare delivery. Okay. All of this is pretty self-explanatory. Okay. What concentrations are in here? Clinical medicine, phys-die, and pharmacotherapeutics. Those are the 3 that will kind of be where we tag questions. So that'll complete our concentration load. Then other content, HIPAA orientation and credentialing, introduction to public health, and then Institute for Healthcare Improvement. Those are listed. We move on down. This is how the program outcomes and the objectives are paired up. You may look at that. Okay. Let's go down here. Course format. Attendance is expected. You can't really get out of anything unless you show up to this, because that skill development, you got to be there, you got to listen, you got to demonstrate, you got to get signatures. Okay. Lectures, OSCE. Here's how your grade gets determined. Okay, there are a number of activities. Okay, verification of competency with practice skills, 40%. So if you can keep your sheet in your possession and do everything that you're supposed to do and have it signed off by a PA faculty member, that's 40%. And it's not graded based on how well you do, it's just the fact that you have been certified as competent at a certain level. So you start out with 40 points towards 100. If you do all these, and if you lose your sheet, you got a difference, then now you're starting out at -40, okay, which would not be good. Okay, quality improvement and patient safety project, that's 10% inside this classroom. You will have to be a complete dork to not get that, okay? Don't try me. I don't expect that will be the issue. Multiple choice examination, 35%, and that will be off all the presentations in here and the topics you get. And then the OSCE is 15%. So it counts something, but it's not going to kill you. Mostly, the average score on SPBLs for this year is about 80, is somewhere about 90%. When you look at your scores across the board, I haven't really averaged them down, but that's about it. The lowest thing you see is probably in the low 80s, all the way up to 90-something. Almost impossible to get 100 with all those little checks off that you do in there. So let's say you 90% of 15%, you're probably not going to ruin your grade. You know, if you get halfway, let's say you miss half of them, that's 7.5%. You're still in the A range if that's important to you. So it's hard to mess up. OSCE grading. Students will perform 2 OSCEs, as we have said. Each one is a new complaint. Faculty member will be present to evaluate student performance during the timed interactions. Grading is as follows. History and physical is 40%, documentation is 40%, and communication is 20%, and that's the average of evaluations of SP and faculty member. Faculty member says you're 100%, SP says you're 80%, you get 90% for that part of what you're doing. Documentation of the note, I just went over how that's graded, so that's 40% of your grade. The history and physical, I cannot give you a template for that because it gets into all the questions you have to ask. But go back to your process. You introduce yourself, walk in, go through the process you usually do, review of systems, focus questions. So it's that piece that you already know. The highest score of the 2 OSCEs is what's recorded for your grade. You could bomb one and make 75% and do another, make 95%. 95% is what gets added in. That's one thing to take some heat off because I don't want you to worry about the grade so much as I want you to worry about your process and self-improvement and paying attention to yourself. So we'll grade both of them, but I'm only going to record the highest grade of the 2. Okay? Part of it too is when you do 2 OSCEs, you walk in a room, if it's a factor that unnerves you, you may not do well. I mean, we just know that when you do standardized patient faculty observation, there's a nerve factor that goes into it. So that's why we're giving you 2 different people and trying to get the best one out of the 2. And I'm sure you're going to do well. I'm really looking forward to seeing how well you do. You have to get a score of 70% or greater on each. It will be hard not to. The way they're set up in grading, it will be hard not to. Additional information about the OSCE is posted on the course site, so you've seen that. In addition to the assignments outlined above, you must submit the Certificate of Successful Completion of the IHI courses. That's the paper I'm looking for, 9 a.m. Thursday. The final humanities reflection, this will be changed. Dr. Vanetta and I agreed on noon Friday at December 15th. He changed that to 7 p.m. on Tuesday, the day after he introduces it. He just did not want you to have it lingering for forever. So, and I think the way it's intended to function, it's not that hard to do. You pretty much write down what you think. It does not have to be a constructed essay response graded as such. It's just your ideas. Okay. And then he will give you the portal for uploading it. Then a fully completed signed competency verification log sheet by 5 p.m. on Monday to me. That Monday, December 18th, is the end of the day when we do all those assessments. So you got the pack rat, you got the final exam, you give it to me anytime during that day, but I need to have it. And probably, just first thing, it'll be done on Friday. If you give it to me on Friday, I can do that. I'll be okay with that. And then the grading scale remains the same. The concentration evaluations keep running like they've been running, but mostly they're done. You know, mostly it's about done for those. And then I think that's it. The rest of it is just policies as you have seen before. Let's see here. Skill development. On skill development, here's your competency verification log sheet. And like I said, don't copy this off. I've got to put, there's an NG tube insertion. Dr. McNeil told me about that this morning, brand new. They got NG tube. So that'll be on Wednesday. I think it's on Thursday of this week. So this is it. You put your name on there. The faculty member will check the box that you demonstrate basic understanding and ability, and then the faculty member will sign it, and then you will turn it in, and nobody will lose it. Nobody. And that's that. We're done. Any questions? A lot of little pieces, and it really does require you to self-organize. There's a lot of self-organization in here. And take this as a chance to begin learning how to self-organize, because when you get on your rotations there is a heavy requirement that you be able to self-organize and plan. The students last year came out in the first month or two, and they were just so glad to be free. And they promptly began bombing ERs right and left because they did not study, they did not get ready. And once they figured out that they have to get ready, they started doing well. You all are not going to do that because you have to organize a week, you have to study. You cannot take an ER and not study. If you do and you pass, good for you. But I will pretty much just about guarantee that if you don't put any energy into it, you can't pass. And folks have begun to figure that out. So I'm not trying to scare you, but you have to be self-organized. So in this module, self-organize the IHI certificate. You can organize those complaints if you want to. Focus on your process and have faith in yourself. The one thing I know about you all is this. Since there's so much stuff here that seems so deadly in so many different ways, it's not. I have a lot of confidence in what you can do. I have been watching all of you. Some of you have some strengths, some have weaknesses. Everybody's kind of had their moments throughout the year. But the group as a whole has done very well. And you've done a very good job, and you are about where you need to be. The biggest thing that you all need to keep working on, and this is for me observing this, it's just professional maturity and maturation. Just kind of ramp it up. And it's kind of what Professor Brooks was talking about. Be good to each other, learn to help each other, stick together that way. That's a very important thing. But also have confidence that you can do this. I know you can do it. I just don't look around and think, oh, this person can't do this. You can do this. And you have to begin having confidence that you can do something without that arrogance that goes with successful completion. Arrogance is the one thing that is lethal in healthcare. Oh, I'm the best at it ever. I'm good at this. I'm good at that. That will kill you because the minute you start thinking you're really, really good and you're really red hot is the minute you're going to get caught. Without fail. And this is true from MD down to whatever you want to do. So being good and successful on an exam, good for you. That is a milestone. All of y'all have had just fantastic moments all year long. It means virtually nothing in the world. It's gotten you past that, and it should give you some confidence, but don't be overconfident. Know that you know stuff, and also know that you don't know stuff. If you hold that in good tension, you'll do fine. And I just really like your basic demeanor and your basic spirit and your basic approach is right where you need to be. Do not let self-doubt undo you. You can do it. There's still stuff to do. I mean, there's still a lot to do to get out of here, but I see you getting out. You can do it. So this course starts letting you do that, and then when y'all get out, y'all be ready and y'all are going to knock them out. Okay. Any questions separate, just email me. But I will be posting all these little changes we've talked about, and I will send your class an email. I'll be sitting back in the back of the room when they're doing clinical phase orientation and probably have it ready in a short period of time. And I'll email your group. It's all in there, so now you can start fiddling with it in the computer if you want to. Okay? Okay, take a break.